With Egypt in the grip of a severe economic crisis, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, who was the chief guest at India's Republic Day parade on Thursday, has approached India for investments and participation in mega infrastructure projects in his country. Egypt is presently experiencing a severe economic crisis. Observers have even said that there are a lot of similarities between Egypt's struggling economy and Lebanon's utterly failed economy. In Lebanon, people are so desperate that they have even robbed their own banks to get their savings. Cities are in the dark because power plants have run out of fuel, and the country's middle class is getting deeper into debt. In Egypt, things haven't gotten that bad yet. But as more bad news about the economy comes out, some people are wondering if Egypt could soon become the new Lebanon. Egypt and Lebanon have some things in common. For example, Egyptian poverty levels are nearing those of Lebanon, with at least 60% of Egyptians living in or near to the poverty line. And then, there's the political elites' willingness to callously enrich themselves at the expense of the state and the public. And this is something the two countries have in common. That is according to Timothy Kaldas, an expert on Egypt's political economy and a policy fellow at the Tahrir Institute for Middle East Policy. He also said, for all of its problems, Egypt is fundamentally in a much more stable situation than Lebanon. And it's not on the verge of total collapse, in the way that Lebanon was. Egypt's currency has lost almost half of its value in less than a year. The annual rate of inflation has gone up to more than 20%, and grocery stores are getting visibly emptier. Many things that were imported are no longer available, and the price of basic foods like eggs and cooking oil has doubled. Meanwhile, amidst foreign debt nearing $170 billion United States dollars, inflation soaring to double digits, and a chronic balance of payment deficit, Egypt became structurally unfit to sustain global shocks. The country saw its foreign debt mounting to 35% of GDP, causing the financing gap to hover at $20 billion United States dollars. Egypt's current economic problems are caused by a number of internal problems, such as political unrest, corruption, and bad management by the government. These problems have recently been joined by problems from outside Egypt, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and the possibility of a global recession. Egypt's biggest source of income, tourism, was hit hard by the pandemic. And then, the war in Ukraine made it hard for the country, which was the biggest wheat importer in the world, to get wheat. While China in play, Egypt turns to India for economic boost. At a time when China's economic ties with Egypt had been growing over the years. The Egyptian side and Indian leadership have been discussing investments and participation in mega infrastructure projects in Egypt over the past 2 days. Egypt welcomes more Indian investments and says it will offer incentives and facilities in line with the laws and rules that are in place. India, for its part, shows that it agrees with this approach by encouraging its companies that could invest abroad to take advantage of the investment opportunities in Egypt. Meanwhile, during his meetings in Delhi with Indian leaders, including External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, President Draupadi Murmu, and the business community, President Sisi emphasized Egypt's desire to expand economic and trade cooperation, as well as joint investments. According to sources, the Egyptian president also stated that mega projects being implemented in Egypt provide a variety of investment opportunities. Although Egypt has not requested budgetary assistance, but major projects highlighted include metro projects in Cairo and Alexandria, the Suez Canal Economic Zone, and a new administrative capital in Cairo's outskirts. According to sources, one of the key areas highlighted was the development of the Suez Canal area, which includes a number of major industrial and logistics zones. In this context, the Egyptian side considers the possibility of allocating a special area of land for Indian industries in the Suez Canal Economic Zone, and the Indian side can arrange for the master plan. That implies, similar to China, India may receive its own industrial zone within Egypt's Suez Canal Economic Zone. Egypt may designate a portion of its Suez Canal economic zone for the establishment of industrial units by Indian companies, as the Arab Republic seeks to attract more investment from the South Asian nation. China has already established a 7.34 square kilometer industrial estate within the zone so that its companies can capitalize on Egypt's strategic location. China, the regional adversary of New Delhi, has already invested over $1 billion in these projects. PM Modi and President Sisi reaffirmed the significance of defense cooperation to the bilateral relationship. They decided to concentrate on strengthening cooperation between the defense industries in order to explore new initiatives to intensify military-to-military interactions. At present, over 50 Indian companies have investments in Egypt, totaling over $3.15 billion. In comparison, Egyptian investments in India amount to approximately $37 million. The trade volume between India and Egypt has increased from $4.5 billion in 2018-2019 to $7.26 billion in 2021-22. And bilateral trade between China and Egypt currently stands at $15 billion.